I've written it down here just in case I balled it up. Social media coordinator with Camogie Association, physiotherapist, Aisling Guilfoyle, aka Tinfoil. Thanks for coming back on the show. Lauren! Oh no! Oh yeah, you said Lauren because your eyes went dead. You were just like, and I was like, fuck. Sorry, Niamh. Okay.
Play by play on Sports Joe and Her, brought to you by AIG in support of 20 by 20.
What a weekend of Camogie. We've got 3 new All-Ireland winners, record-breaking attendance. I'm Jenny Murphy. This is Play by Play. I'm joined by St Vincent's and Dublin Camogie player Aisling Maher. Aisling, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
With me also, I've got social media coordinator with the Camogie Association. Oh, I managed to say that all in one go. Delighted with myself. And physiotherapist Lauren Guilfoyle, aka Tinfoil. We're going to dissect all of the Camogie that's gone on. We're going to chat a little bit about other sports as well, but the main focus is the hurl and the sitter. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having me.
That was, well, I'm okay to admit it, that was probably my 7th intro. Yeah, great. So now that you all know I'm an absolute pro, let's get into, well, I suppose we'll just jump right into first attendance. Attendance was over 24,000, new records. I think it's since the last 10 years is bumped by 10,000, which is huge. And what a game of Camogie to finish off the day. I think I was looking back on, previous finals and there was glimpses of brilliance and it was marred with maybe some finicky refereeing and just a lot of freeze scores, and that was free flowing, quick, exciting. I can't see the attendance not getting larger next week. Did you guys attend the game?
Yeah, I was there in a work capacity, so I didn't get to see much of it, but I have watched the game back, so I am here in an educated position, I suppose.
Okay. Well, you're the 2 pros, so I'm here. You can teach me more, and I'm just here to ask questions while I learn more about camogie.
Well, I suppose the most positive thing to take from the weekend is that we're waking up today with an awful lot of coverage, positive coverage. There's front pages, back pages of papers today adorned with Galway players. There's no controversy about referees. It's all positive. It's positive around a very free-flowing and entertaining and high-scoring game. There is no one giving out about referees. People are praising Ray Kelly for the performance that he had yesterday. So I think I am just walking around with a smile on my face since the moment I woke up this morning, because it was such a positive weekend for camogie, and I think camogie needed it yesterday. The last 2 finals, it's one of the showcases of the game, and they haven't lived up to what they probably should have. So yeah, I'm just delighted, to be honest, with the 3 matches yesterday. They were all quite entertaining. So yeah, delighted.
And great start, goal, nearly goal in the first 5 minutes from Galway. Well, 3 goals. You got 2 from O'Reilly and 1 from Hannafy. What did you make of those? Is that coming 3 goals in, tough to kind of come back from something like that?
Yeah, big time. I think looking back on the game, the 3 goals were what made the difference. I know stats wise, Galway scored 3-4 from play in the first half. Kilkenny scored 4 points from play. So the goals were the difference ultimately by the end of it. I think it finished 3-14 to 17 points. So you're looking at 17 scores apiece. But the goals are obviously what make the difference. And the 3 of them coming in the first half really put Kilkenny fighting an uphill battle. Then in the second half, that was always going to be a massive ask to turn around that deficit. But definitely given the strength of Galway's backs and the way that they defended and the way that they kept the Kilkenny forwards out, particularly given that the Kilkenny contingent up front is as strong as they are. Galway just didn't give them a sniff a goal, and Kilkenny probably really needed a goal in the second half to spur themselves on to turn over that 6-point deficit at half time, and they weren't let anywhere near the goal. So O'Reilly's 2 goals, and I think she was instrumental in the third one as well, were really what made the difference in the day.
And we have to talk about, if we're talking about the game, the midfield pairing, Galway. Now this is going to get confusing. Galway midfielder, second name Kilkenny, got it. Outstanding game. And it was just work rate from across the park. But the minute the Kilkenny forwards, I don't think they looked like they were going to score a goal. They were just swarmed straight away. It was, and that kind of defence and keeping that for a full game it's so fatiguing. I'm looking at it, I'm oh, my lungs hurt looking at that. So yeah, are there any standout performance from you from the game?
Well, you can't really pass this segment by without kind of giving all praise to Niamh Kilkenny. She was just phenomenal yesterday. I don't think this year in any hurling All-Ireland, football All-Ireland, any All-Ireland in the past couple of years, someone has been so influential in the decider. She had 25 possessions over a 60-minute game. She scored 4 points from play. She was involved in the first goal. A minute later, she got the first point from play in the game. She was then instrumental in the second goal, in Niamh Hanlon's goal, and then she gave the pass then for Ailsa O'Reilly's third goal. So she had a hand-acting part in every single important score throughout the game. I was watching the match today and I was like making a list of when she had the ball in her possessions, because there was such talk about Niamh Kilkenny and the performance that she had. And it was every 30 seconds I was writing her name down. She had the ball, she was either involved in the play, or she was hooking someone, or she was making runs off the ball. She was just phenomenal. So yeah, I think like there was no wonder she was player of the game last night.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point as well, as the work rate that she had. So even though 4 points from play is an unbelievable contribution for a midfielder to give, especially in an All-Ireland final, given the pressure that's put on everybody, biggest day of the year, and you're in front of, you know, a massive crowd in Croke Park. I think what's really noteworthy about both her and Aoife O'Donoghue, who partnered her in midfield, is that both of them came off and spoke about work rate. They spoke about getting hooks in, getting blocks in, getting turnovers and tracking back and helping their defence. They weren't talking about scores that they created, or they weren't talking about points that they got along the way. For them, it really epitomised, I guess, what Galway brought to the game yesterday, which was that hunger and that desire to just work hard and to win possession, and then the scores they knew would come as a result of that, and they weren't too concerned about who it was that was putting the ball over the bar at the end of it all.
Like, I think the less glamorous side is, you know, those hooks, those blocks, those chase backs, those even sometimes dummy runs off the ball. They're all sometimes, you know, you look at your stats after a game, and we do pay, and I do think that we pay too much attention to stats a lot of the time, and sometimes they're completely irrelevant. Do they measure how good you are as a player? No, but all these other little immeasurables, or those maybe less glamorous aspects, they do add up to a performance. And like when you're going into a game, do you have in your head yourself like, oh, I've got like this is how many, you know, hooks I want to get in, or this is how many chase? Like, do you have a set number, or is there, like we have in our team, a set standard of this is the amount of penalties that we consider acceptable to give away, and anything else is not good enough, you know? And then Ireland, the men's team particularly at the moment, really low penalty rating. It does win them games. Do you think that's set out for you?
Yeah, definitely. The way we would have done it, and it's kind of only a recent development that, like you're saying, as we kind of have the luxury of having statsmen in with us on the team and that sort of stuff, it's something that we can focus in on. And I suppose, how do you measure work rate? It's a very difficult thing to do, but one of the things you can look at is hooks and blocks. So I know from Dublin Camogie's perspective, the way we would have implemented that this year is we would have been after 14 hooks and blocks a game, which breaks down to being only one per person. And we would have kind of had that as our starting point. That's what we're aiming to hit. And if we can get 14 hooks and blocks in a game, then that's 14 chances to turn the ball over, which is kind of once every 4 minutes or so. So that, like, if you can achieve that as a team, it's a very good place to start. And then similarly, like you're saying with frees, we would have had a number of frees that we would have been trying to keep below conceding that number. Obviously, you know, every now and again there's going to be somebody through on goal, or somebody has to be taken out of it or pulled down, and the fullbacks kind of get
tactical free.
They get a free pass on those ones. Sometimes they're allowed to get away with it. But definitely, I'm up the other end. I'm in the forwards, and if I'm giving away frees, I'm in trouble. I'm not allowed to do that.
And we've got so not only was it a cracker, firstly, we talk about record attendance, and we're talking all about Galway, but Kilkenny, third, you're in final for the third time, 3 finals in a row, 3 defeats. It's tough to come back from one final. It's tough to come back from a second final when you lose by a point. You know you have to restart that whole year again, and you have to be like, okay, I wasn't good enough. What are the 1%ers? And you do improve, and when you learn from your losses and they're crap, and then to get this blow again, this is the second time that this has happened to Kilkenny. They've lost the 3 in a row. And the last time was Anne Downey, their manager, a coach. What do they need to do to come back from something like this?
I don't know. It's weird. Kilkenny have won 3 league titles in a row. They were going for 4 in a row this year, and Galway stopped them. They've been on the bad side of a 1 point All-Ireland final scoreline the last 2 years against their epic rivals in Cork. And they got back to the decider this year against different opposition, and I don't know, their performance on All-Ireland final day for the last 3 years has been so inconsistent. They've either started well and fell away, or they haven't started well like yesterday and they've kind of had a touch of a good performance in the second half. And even yesterday after the game, Anne Downey spoke about how Galway wanted it more and how Galway were the better team in the day. And that just baffles me, because like, what more motivation do you need than 2 All-Ireland final defeats at the hands of Cork by 1 point? Like, what, I suppose, I don't know what they're lacking in terms of motivation. And as well, Kilkenny, like they pretty much walked through the championship. They weren't tested until yesterday. They beat Galway in the first round. They beat them by 2 points. And I know kind of today, Ailish O'Reilly has been saying, well, maybe they kind of held some of their secret weapons back on that day. And I think the puck out strategy was probably that. And they had it so easy for the rest of the championship. Tipperary kind of put it up to them a little bit in the semi-final. So they probably got to yesterday, and I know people are kind of saying, were they a bit complacent because they had gotten there so easily? They weren't facing Cork in the final. Like, it just baffles me from a mindset point of view. Like, is that what's holding them back? Like, because they have an unbelievable 6 forwards. They have a really, really solid defence. I think they had 16 goals scored going into yesterday's final. And then to just kind of not flop, like it was definitely their best performance over the past 3 All-Ireland finals, but to still not be able to churn out what we've seen from them throughout the championship so far and the league. So what they're missing, I think Anne Downey probably thinks it's something from a managerial point of view, because she stepped down this morning. She's been involved since 2016. I think maybe they just need to freshen up their approach, and they have done that this year. They've changed. They were quite defensive, like from playing them yourselves. You know that they're so defensive the last couple of years, and they've changed that up this year. And we can see that in their goal ratio. They've just gone through the roof this year. But is it a mindset thing? I think.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to consider that. Well, first of all, I wouldn't say that Kilkenny didn't want it enough, because, as we've alluded to, you know, 2 defeats in an All-Ireland final by a point in 2 consecutive years, followed by, you know...
you don't keep on getting back up from those hits without really wanting it.
Exactly. So there's no question of the desire that's there. It was definitely a different challenge they were being faced with in the All-Ireland final this year, in that they've changed up the opposition that they're playing against. That changes things, firstly, from the point of view that Cork play a very particular brand of Camogie. They play a very particular style of hurling. So playing against them is very different to playing against a lot of other good teams. And I guess, you know, part of the reason that we all thought Kilkenny were going so well this year is, like Lauren alluded to, we kind of saw a transition from them playing a very defensive game where Anne Dalton was sitting back, and there was a lot of really strong play in the defence, and then they were trying to build on scores from that, but really they were trying to win matches by conceding less than their opposition, more so than trying to outscore their opposition. Whereas this year we saw, like was mentioned, I think it was 11 goals and 105 points or something like that scored in championship, or was it 16 goals?
It was 16
goals and 105
A lot of
points.
goals.
A lot of goals. Either way.
Yeah.
So like a really, really high scoring championship Kilkenny had going into this All-Ireland final, and I think Anne Dalton, having moved up to centre forward for a lot of the games, was averaging 1-3 going into the final yesterday. So that's like one player that kind of probably wasn't really scoring in championship last year, who single-handedly is putting up that much this year. I think that probably, you know, it's a unique challenge for Kilkenny going into that game, probably being favourites suddenly, whereas if they were going in against Cork and Cork were going for 3 in a row, maybe the momentum would have been behind them a bit more. Suddenly Kilkenny were being scrutinised by everybody in the media. There was a lot of pressure put on them. There's 6 forwards who are phenomenal players, both individually and play as an incredibly talented forward unit. Probably had a lot of expectation on their shoulders. And I wonder, is it a case that they got to a point of being like, we can't lose another final, we can't lose a 3rd in a row, we've lost 2 years already, we're playing Galway, we're expected to win this. And the shift of focus was maybe on not losing, as opposed to that kind of confidence of
playing how
winning.
they played to get them to the final.
Right,
in the first
exactly.
place.
And you know, it definitely is advantageous in a lot of ways to play. Obviously, the structure in Camogie is such that if you top the group, you miss those quarterfinals, so you go straight into semi. You know, Kilkenny would have missed the quarterfinals, so that's one less competitive game that they're playing, and then they got Tipperary in the semi-final, maybe perceived as the weakest of the 4 teams that were playing in the semis, from the point of view that the other 3 teams have been there fairly consistently over the last number of years. So maybe they didn't get the same challenge in the semi-finals that Galway received, and maybe there's a lot to be said for getting those tests early on in the championship to just build the confidence in a team. And it can be easy to lull yourself into a false sense of security going into an All-Ireland final, saying, well, we've put up this massive score and we're expected to win against Galway. And And I definitely, like I said, I don't think they lacked want, but maybe they just got nervous on the day or whatever it was. That want just didn't translate into hunger and a desire and a work rate in the pitch in the same way that it did for Galway.
And as well, like, you're going in sometimes that having that underdog tag is, well, I know that a lot of the time I prefer it as well. There's you're kind of like, it does definitely add as a fuel, like, okay, right, well, we've been written off, so to speak, by the media or by, you know, the other teams or people on chat shows or panels talking about Camogie. Yeah. But again, having that favourite tag is another added pressure. And as well, when you go back to Croke Park and the memories you have of Croke Park are, oh, remember that time that we lost, and then remember that, like, having, I don't know, in my head, if I'm thinking of some of the places that I've played in, you do think about the matches you played and you do get a smile on your face when you're like, oh, I know how to win here. But you also are like, oh, this was an absolute shitter when I played here last time. Yeah, and then, like you said, when you're feeding yourself that negative, oh, we can't lose, or this can't be our year to, you know, not choke necessarily, but I think, and as well as that, credit to Galway, they just played class.
Yeah, they were fantastic, and you know, while we can sit here and say Kilkenny probably underperformed in a lot of ways, I think you have to give the credit to Galway in that they didn't allow Kilkenny to perform in the way that they can do, and they got their matchups really, really on point, and they stopped Kilkenny playing the kind of brand of stylish hurling and taking scores from further out the pitch. They were just very tight in their defence. They kept a really good Kilkenny contingent in the forwards out, and they just didn't let them next or near the goal, and they forced them to take those long range points, which, credit to Kilkenny, they still managed to get 17 of between frees and plays, which most other years would have won you an All-Ireland final in Camogie. I think it's few and far between.
It's the highest scoring Camogie final, like,
since
in
1988.
Yeah.
The halftime score equaled, no, it outscored the 2018 final and would have been level with the 2017 final.
Like, and that goes, but I think it's, yeah, sometimes, and I know I've done it, and I know people, we've given out a little bit about the referee and stuff, but like, oh, sometimes when the game is played like that, more people are going to want to go to that, to watch that. Like,
there's two sides to the refereeing, I think, from yesterday. Like, it was a brilliant game and he let an awful lot flow. But, like, you could equally look at it the same way, and another referee might have reffed that match yesterday and reffed it completely differently, but within the rules. And I think that's what Camogie players want to see changed.
A clarification of the rules. It's so broad.
Well, yeah, exactly. As in, like, that's the game yesterday was entertaining because we were allowed to see the hits, we were allowed to see the physicality. Like, nobody got hurt, so that's why today we're kind of sitting here and we're happy with the game, and that it wasn't a case of free taker versus free taker like it has been for the last 2 years. But I think, yeah, it's time that we sit down and we look at these rules. I know the review committee has been doing that, and they will do that over the next couple of months to just, I suppose, kind of loosen up those rules a little bit and allow a little bit more contact. Like, yeah, there's been an awful lot of praise given to the S&C contingent of the Galway backroom team, because, like, this was their first season actually with the Galway Camogie team, because Cathal Murray, that was the manager, only came in halfway through last year, so he didn't get that pre-season with them last year. And they spent an awful lot of time on their strength, on their conditioning, and it's like they took so many hits yesterday, but they got up as soon as they could and they were back down the pitch again, you know? So, like, the refereeing was brilliant, but I think it's time that we really, really look at that now and say, how can we have a rule book that allows that match yesterday to be replicated throughout the entire
standard
Atlantic.
that we want to get to all the time. Because, yeah, you see, and it's not just, like, the semi-finals as well were exciting stuff. And also what was very refreshing was the post-match interviews afterwards. Not just, we'll talk about Westmeath and stuff afterwards, but we'll stick with the senior championship of the moment. It was just refreshing. Again, goal scorer O'Reilly just kind of very much laid out. She made reference to how Kilkenny had beat them in the championship in the first round, and that was definitely a fuel. And she talked about they held back some of the tactics that you would unleash, because what she said, what's the point of giving anything away? We were definitely going to play them again, and we were definitely going to have to play Cork. The strategy was to play it down the middle. Thankfully we got the breaking ball and it paid off. It was nice to actually not get the boring, we worked hard and we believed in each other, which is, like, it's all true and everything, but as well you got a bit of insight into the dressing room, which is what everyone wants. They want to know why that team ticks and why they are successful. Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of nice. More,
She'll probably
more
get
of
in
that.
trouble now for giving away their tactics.
Yeah. It's nothing changing up anyways. What do you make as a player of, you're going into that first round of championship and you're in Galway's boots? Do you hold back on your tactics, or you're like, we want to win this game, we play to the best of our ability, we not necessarily give everything away, but we use all our weapons that we have available to us?
Well, it's not a player's decision, is it? As a player, you do what your management tells you to do. And while you're never going to hold back as a player, you're never going to be like, I might throw this ball wide now just to keep it closer, to let them build up a bit of momentum. You won't invoke new tactics or new puck-out strategies that management might have spoken about previously, or that you might be playing in training if you're told not to. So I think credit probably has to go to Cathal Murray there first and foremost for managing a team very well. Like we just mentioned as well, he's not in very long. He only came in midway through last year, so this was really his first year that he had a full 11 months or so with the team, and he's managed them phenomenally well between the seniors and the inters. You know, you can't question, he's obviously doing something right down there. I think that he's right in, probably if that was the decision that was made to hold back a little bit, Galway probably had an advantage going into championship this year in that they haven't been scrutinised over the last 2 or 3 years in the same way that Kilkenny and Cork have, so people aren't analysing every aspect of the way that they play, and they probably had the chance to hold back a couple of tactics and a couple of puck-out strategies and use them on All-Ireland final day without them having been seen before and analysed by every other team in the country. And I can see why Cathal Murray would choose to keep something like that.
Well, I suppose the Camogie Championship and the way it's structured can kind of lend to that as well. So there's 2 groups of 6 or 5, depending on which group that you're in, and 3 qualify from that. So you're going to obviously have your Cork, your Galway and your Kilkenny coming out of that, and then that leaves 3 more spaces. So there is a bit of wiggle room, I suppose, in the group stages to kind of try a few different things if you are the Kilkenny, the Galway and the Cork. Obviously, the likes of your Tipperary, Dublin and Clares need to go out and try and win every single game. So that's like getting Kilkenny in the first round was probably what Cathal Murray wanted. If they had them later in the round robin series and they needed to grind out a win, we might have seen something different. They might have had to deploy some of those new tactics. And that tactic of driving the ball right down onto the centre forward and everyone bunching together just worked wonders for them. I don't know how they only ended up coming out with 3 goals. They had about 6-7 chances in that first half alone, but it worked brilliantly, and Kilkenny didn't know what to do with it. It was organised chaos from a Galway perspective, and Kilkenny just had nothing to answer.
I think that's a really valid point though as well. It looked chaotic, and if you look back in them, it nearly looks like, oh well, they just landed a ball on top of a bunch of players and together, and it happened to break right for Galway. But I think, you know, we can see from the fact that like you're saying, it wasn't just 3 goal chances, it wasn't just 2 long shots that, you know, the keeper missed because the sun was in her eyes and they dropped in or whatever. They were at least 5 or 6 goal chances from Galway, and nearly all of them were coming from the exact same set play. It was that tactic of bunching in together, and the player who's going up to receive the ball knows where she's putting it before she's even caught it. You know, that run was being made by the Galway player, just peeling off around the concentration of players every single time, and they just executed it really, really well.
As a, like, I know, like, I'm kind of looking at it now from a bit of a rugby perspective, but when we're playing, especially in set piece, we have a little bit more time as backs to look, kind of analyse what's coming and set our defence accordingly. And then after 1 or 2 set pieces, you're kind of like, okay, this is the tactic they're doing. They're attacking narrow, and then within 2 phases, they're going to hit wide and try and go on like an outside channel or something like that. Or, yeah, so you defend and change, but you've time to have like these mini conversations with your inside and your outside, or sometimes even when the forwards are doing their scrum thing, like to have a little bit of a longer conversation. Do you have that in Camogie? Because there's not really breaks in play. So how do you know, okay, this is the tactic they're going to use. Do you have time to work around that?
Yeah, not really. Definitely not long conversations anyway.
Yeah. So what Netflix show are you binging on?
I definitely won't claim to be a rugby expert or know anything about rugby here, but I guess maybe the main difference is the fact that in Camogie you're much more responsible for one player. So while they might deploy a certain tactic, at the end of the day, in Camogie it's kind of one of 2 things. Either as a forward, you know, you're not very concerned about your player, or as a back, you're marking the space, or you're marking your opposite number. And I guess there's a certain level of tactics that are being deployed that you can see as the game's being played, but by and large it's probably up to the backs to communicate such that, you know, even if we don't know exactly what they're doing, we're either making a decision that we're all man marking and we're all following our player, and no matter where your player goes, you're following her, or the opposite. You know, I'm marking my space and you stay in your corner and I'll stay in mine. And if the corner forward switch position, then we'll pick them up as they cross. So yeah, I mean, probably set pieces are less of a thing in Camogie than they are in rugby. We definitely seen more and more of them being used. Like we were saying, the last 2 All-Ireland finals were quite tactical and kind of chess-like in a lot of ways. But any of that kind of interpretation is probably way easier to see for us after the game, to see what set pieces are used or what.
Well, we've got the offside rule, so technically you kind of separate the team. So one team has to go this side, so then you can huddle up. But like I'm actually just thinking back to when I'm playing Gaelic now as well, and like I played in the forward, so you'd have this absolute wreck the head back following you, and you're like balls in that way. You're just like, I'm just having a bit of water, and just they're on you the whole time. So I'm like, okay, yeah, you can't really have the space even to discuss that. So that's fair enough. Before we kind of close out on Galway's cracking win, we do have to mention Kilkenny's manager. Unbelievable, and Annie, like the amount of titles that she has as a player and what she has done as a manager. So Kilkenny even been involved in 13 senior All-Irelands. She's been senior All-Ireland Championship wins. She's been involved in every single one of them. So massive play. I don't know if she's a listener, but like, nice man, fair play. That's on her. Losing someone of that, like I don't know. Like, obviously, the players know much more what she's like as a manager, but having someone of that experience stepping away, good or bad for Kilkenny. I know that you said you spoke about like, do they need to or possibly look at a refresher, or go about things differently? But from the way you're talking, they seem to have done that already. Just.
Yeah, she's brought them only so far, I suppose. Like in her first season, she won the All-Ireland, and then it's been 3 defeats on the trot since. But yeah, I think it's actually quite a good time in Kilkenny. We're seeing an awful lot of maybe ex-hurlers coming out, taking over Offaly, taking over Laois. So I think it's probably a nice time for one of those to maybe step up. And I really like seeing guys from a hurling background coming into the Camogie side of things, because we're always trying to bring up the levels of professionalism. And if you're taking someone that's been in the setup with Brian Cody and winning numerous All-Irelands, they expect standards. And I think if you go into a structure or a setup and you just have those expectations from the word go, I think all the girls are going to buy into that. And I think that's what happened with Cathal Murray. He's coming from a hurling background with Sarsfields. So you come in and you just expect there to be a physio there all the time, and you expect to be fed after training. Like, these things just aren't the norm in Camogie at the moment. Some counties have them, others don't. So I think in Kilkenny, I'd love to see one of the ex-hurlers go in there and just see, can they bring a little bit of experience on winning the big days in Croke Park, and will that bring them over the line? But she's had a phenomenal record, 12 All-Ireland medals. Like, it's insane. And her sister Angela there as well, helping her out. It's just phenomenal what she's done for Kilkenny.
Yeah, some of us are still chasing one All-Ireland.
What do you think of bringing in hurlers in a management role?
Well, obviously David Herty would be an ex-senior hurler with Kilkenny, and he would have been in over Dublin for 2 years there. 27 and 2018 he came in over us, and you know, we probably had our most successful year in 30 odd years the first year that he came in with us. So you can't deny the impact that somebody like that has, particularly, as you say, on a Camogie setup, which tends to be, unfortunately, not at the same level of professionalism as we see in the hurling counterparts. So definitely I think that it's a really positive thing for Camogie to have people of that calibre coming in. As somebody who's going to be playing against Kilkenny, do I want to see someone like that go in with them? But I think, look, it's really important to give Anne credit. She's done phenomenal work with them. I know from any of the Kilkenny girls that I know, they have mountains of time for her, mountains of respect for her. She's done a really, really significant amount of work with them, and she's gotten them to a stage where for the last 3 years they've been very, very close to an All-Ireland final, and obviously 4 years ago they won it.
The amount of Leinster League final, like they've got.
Yeah, they've won three leagues and 3 Leinsters as well, 4 Leinsters maybe, in that time as well. So they've been an incredibly successful team. It's just that unfortunately everybody concentrates on the fact that they've lost 3 All-Irelands in a row. It'll be a big loss to Camogie to see another female manager in a very successful role step down. That's the only issue, obviously, with watching more hurlers going in, is that management teams remain kind of male dominant. So from that point of view, she's a big loss to Camogie and the Camogie Association as a whole. But I definitely think that, from my perspective, the club team that I'm playing with, we went through a phase of losing 3 Dublin Championship finals in a row, and we had a change in management and then went on to win 3 in a row straight after that. So sometimes, there was no massively significant change made that went from changing us losing 3 in a row to winning 3 in a row. But sometimes it's just like a slightly different approach or a slightly different technique, or somebody changing something that might appear to be quite minor that just wouldn't have crossed another manager's mind. So hopefully it'll be an opportunity for them to continue to build on the brilliant work that she's done and just to capitalise on the players that they have there.
And now I think we've done our fair bit on the senior championship. Let's move along to Westmeath and Galway, where in this outing Galway were on they came second. So Westmeath 1 goal, 11 points to Galway's 1-9. I regret saying that. Why did I say came second? That was just like, done All Ireland final, and that's class. And to lose by 2, that's a sickener. So 9 points by Pamela Greville. Am I pronouncing
Greville?
Yeah, nailed it. 3 of those from play. Also Laura Doherty and Scally got on the scoreboard. That's their first time that they've won an intermediate, and they've only just come up from 2 years ago. They've come up from junior championship.
Yeah.
That's serious jumps.
Like when you put it into context, Pamela Greville, when she started playing for Westmeath, it was a 1-day tournament, I'm pretty sure is what I was seeing. Like the intermediate and the junior grades are quite new in Camogie. And Pamela, she's 36, like she's definitely one of the older players, so completely experienced. Sorry. But to see the progression in Westmeath Camogie, I think it was the story of yesterday, until obviously the senior final came along and blew that out of the water. But the atmosphere after, I don't know, were you down in the stand for that part of it? It was just incredible. What it meant to Westmeath to come up from Premier Junior 2 years ago, to come along, win the intermediate title, and now to be playing senior next year. I just hope she stays on to experience that.
Oh, it'd be absolutely cracking. And a really exciting start to the whole game as well. Penalty save from Westmeath. And I particularly loved, I'm seeing clips of the management after. It's just I think it's just the unadulterated excitement about the whole thing. There was just no playing it cool at all. I think he's probably still in coppers right now and giving it socks. It was just again, and were they favourites going into that game?
They wouldn't have been, no, and it was the manner in which they won. They were 7 points down at half time, and to come back from that to only concede 1 point in the second half, and that was from a free in the 4th minute of injury time. So I think just the way they won it just heightened their emotions altogether. Johnny Greville gave one of the best post-match interviews I've seen. To quote, she didn't want to do a Jim Gavin on it. And I'm pretty sure he's brother of Pamela, so I think it was a real family connection. They wouldn't have been favourites going into the game yesterday, but I don't know, was there a factor in that Galway had 2 teams, the same management, games very close together? I don't know, it was a weird dynamic, and I'm not sure it was that to their downfall, but definitely Westmeath's resilience in the second half was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's when you're coming in at half time, you're up by 7 points, and your management also knows we've got another game in I don't know, an hour or whatever. It's there's definitely double jobbing it. All Ireland final day is definitely not a task I would relish.
Well, it's been done in the last couple of years. So 2013, Galway won both on the same day, and Cork did it 2 years ago, or last year, sorry.
Well, yeah.
It has been done before, but I suppose you have to look at those matches in isolation as well. Yesterday's game was obviously quite close in the intermediate decider, and they were just pipped in the end. Galway obviously fought back, and they didn't lie down and take it easily. And Galway then tried to turn it around somewhat, and they used it as motivation in the senior final. I heard Colin Murray speaking about it later on. So I suppose it is a silver lining in some regards for some of those Galway players that were part of both panels. Yeah,
I'd say definitely for Colin Murray going in at half time of the senior game, he was 5 or 6 points up at that stage, which a lot of people would be an ideal first half, an ideal All-Ireland semi-final, or an All-Ireland final, but he would have been looking at it going, well, this happened an hour ago and we were 7 points up and we still managed to lose that game. So he would have probably gone in with a slightly different attitude and a slightly different halftime talk to the senior team than he did with the intermediate team, just to really hammer home, turn around and look at these girls that are right beside you that you've been with for the last number of months, and look how quickly it was all taken away from them, and take nothing for granted, and make sure to hammer it home in the second half. But I think, yeah, full credit to Westmeath. They were phenomenal in that second half. You know, I think probably the intermediate final would have been the one that a lot of people were calling very hard to, were finding very hard to call who was going to win it. Galway probably were favourites going into it, but Westmeath were by no means written off. Like we mentioned there as well earlier, the fact that they won the junior only 2 years ago is just incredible. Like if that happened in hurling, if we had one team win a division and 2 years later,
Kildare.
It's happening. I'm telling you.
But yeah, I think like in fairness, they'd get a massive amount more coverage if they were a hurling team, having just won one division 2 years ago and then winning the division above it 2 years later. So I think that they really do need to get the credit they deserve for that. It just shows the amount of work that's been put down in there. I know they've done a massive amount of work in their underage section, and obviously that's coming through to senior now, and they have that balance of experience, like we're saying, with the likes of Pamela that are that bit older, and then the younger players coming up through the ranks. And just delighted to see them transition now to senior camogie next year, and it'll be great to have another county up competing in the senior championship.
So we've got the Lakesiders going senior, and we have to mention as well record-breaking attendance, but also Kerry beating the odds. First time they won a Junior All-Ireland. So they've won. There was 11 points to Kerry, 8 points Limerick. Yeah, I love it that it's not really a camogie stronghold, Kerry. And every single one of the panel, bar one, Breed Horan, plays with Clonmorris. So I think that's a huge advantage. You know, you've played with your teammates for so long, so you kind of know the ins and outs. Like, oh, Lauren's slow, I'm not going to pucker it out too far, or whatever. Yeah, an absolute a cracking one there. I'm sorry we were skipping so quickly on from there, but you have to wrap up. So we have to do our other, our coverage as well of other sports, because we're camogie heavy this week, which is fair enough. So Ireland got off to great start with the European qualifiers, 2-0 win versus Montenegro. They're next playing 22nd against Germany, so that is definitely going to be a different challenge. But they've finally got themselves a new coach, a new Dutch coach, so it's going to be stroop waffles for breakfast. Former player and coach Vera Pow. I'm going to go with Pow. I'm probably going to butcher that, and Louise Quinn's going to tell me about it later on that I balls that up. Yeah, so she's coached in like Russia, South Africa, Scotland, I think, before. So I think looking forward to. She was at the game as well, so looking forward to seeing how they progress. Because I think Ireland do have a really good chance of qualifying for the Euros. This is their first time that they would ever qualify for a major tournament, and the squad are going really well. Like you've got players like McCabe and Quinn in Arsenal, Campbell in Man City, like all playing in superb teams, getting that amount of coverage, playing those top games week in, week out. It can only benefit the international team. So okay, I've covered soccer briefly. We've also got a great win, Ireland men's team at the weekend. It's nice to set them off to Japan with a victory over a very strong Welsh team. So yeah, looking forward to that. Anyone tempted to get flights to Japan for the World Cup?
I'd love to. They're only going.
No, I'm doing a lot more scratch cards, but it's not looking good. Unless, Niamh, producer, do you think that maybe it'd be a good idea for me to go out there and interview some of the lads? Oh, there's silence. I know then there's a strong no. No, I'm not allowed to do that. Thanks, Niamh. Yeah, your support as always is class. Definitely going to be going way too much into rugby now. I'm going to save that for next week. We'll talk about our live show. Question for you: as a player going into an All Ireland senior football, you're watching it. How was that for you?
How depressing is it?
Yeah, that's
to be up in the stadium instead on the pitch.
Yeah.
Look, obviously as a player you want to be out there, you want to be playing, you want to be on the pitch. It's always tough to take when you have to stand on the sideline or sit in the crowds instead. But as a member of Camogie, getting to see the game played in front of the biggest crowd that we've ever had, record attendance for a standalone Camogie game, and getting to see the one game of the year that's really watched by the general public, the shop window for Camogie, getting to see it played at that standard is fantastic. And we saw obviously with ladies football this year, they bridged the gap and they've made Croke Park available for semi-finals as well, and hopefully that's not too far down the line for Camogie. Obviously we get to play in Semple Stadium sometimes as well, and places like that, and when we have a good stadium and a good support behind us, the games are just played at such a greater level of intensity, and it just promotes the match so much more for even, we'd noticed in Dublin, we got to play our last round of championship against Clare, was played in Parnell Park this year, and for the kids coming and playing at half-time and the half-time games, there's so much more buzz about it for them, the atmosphere is so much better. It just really adds to the occasion, and it encourages them to really want to be involved and to look up to the girls that they see playing on those pitches and to want to be out there too. So hopefully there's more of it to come.
Yeah, like I think when you're watching a game in one of those top quality stadiums, it makes it easier to, I don't know, those big occasions, it's a lovely surface or, you know, a loud crowd, it definitely adds to it. Like, so the Manchester Derby, the start of the FAI Women's Super League kicked off this weekend with the first time Man United and Man City women's teams played against each other in the Etihad Stadium. They broke records within that league. There's over 31,000 at the game. Like, so it's not only that's amazing in itself, but not just with the stadium you get, you know, greater capacity, unbelievable service, all that kind of stuff, but the technology that's available as well. So we got to see Caroline Weir's cracker of a goal, even though I'm a Man United supporter, through this like kind of, was it Intel True View kind of view. So if anyone is able to like Google it or whatever, check it out, it was class. Zinger, it just adds to it even more, and you can clearly see the skill that's involved, and as well, like, so the highlight reels from Camogie at the weekend. So Elaine Buckley, she works at RTE, and like her highlight reels are always brilliant. Her music selection is always class. So also check that out as well. That's a plug for Elaine. I'm saying. So what's then next for you?
Well, we're obviously finished up with county now for the next couple of months. So we go into club championship. We're 3 rounds in at this stage. So played our 3rd round there on Saturday. They've changed the format in Dublin Camogie this year, so it's a round robin setup, which obviously is fantastic for players, more game time. So Division 1 has 8 teams in it, so we play 7 matches over the course of 7 weeks, and then for the top 4 teams that qualify, first place 4th and second place 3rd in a semi the following week, and then 2 weeks later is the final. So eyes on the prize. So we'll be hoping to get back there again this year.
So do you know who you've got in the next round?
We play Ballantyre St John's on Sunday, so that'll be our next game.
Nice. Best of luck, Lauren. What about yourself? What's down the road?
Well, things are getting quieter now because obviously I was looking after the social media for the Camogie Association over the championship, so that obviously came to a close officially yesterday, but we'll still tap away at it. If the AllStar is coming up on the 19th of October, so I'm looking forward to that, to see who gets selected for that, and the Soaring Star Awards as well. So I'll be involved in that, and here's hoping there's an AllStar trip as well to come. They're heading to New York this year, and great to see the Camogie Association and Liberty Insurance pushing the boat a little bit there and bringing the All-Stars to New York, so hopefully I'll be involved in the social media side of things in that.
Bag yourself a nice trip to New York. Nice. Oh man, I wish I was better at social media. What are your predictions? Do you want to stick a player forward that should be on the dream team, your dream team? This is for both of you guys now.
On the All-Stars?
Yeah, All-Stars. The dream team of Camogie.
Well, even if Kilkenny is
100%. They do a Player of the Year award as well with Camogie, so there'll be 3 players nominated for Player of the Year, and I think she'd probably even be pushing for that as well. I'd say she's a safe bet if anybody's heading down to the bookies for
Player
an
of the
All-Star.
match in the semi-final as well. So
okay, so Niamh Kilkenny fan club, she's getting a trophy. Who else is like?
Oh God.
Well, it'll be Galway heavy, you would expect. Obviously, there'll be a few Kilkenny players in there. I'm sure, you know, Aoife O'Donoghue, she was player of the league, which obviously won't be directly considered, but she's had a really good season all year. I'm sure she'll be there or thereabouts as well. It's very unusual to see a midfield pairing from the same county in an All-Star team, but we might see it done this year. And then there'll be a few Kilkenny, I think, and Dalton has had a super year as well. You know, she mightn't have had the game of her life in the final, but she's been consistently brilliant for Kilkenny all year. I'd say she'd be hard done by to be left out.
So we're seeing a heavy Kilkenny Galway kind of side go forward.
Yeah, and there obviously will be a couple of nominations anyway from the other counties. You'll have the likes of Cottovan, Niamh Mulcahy will definitely get a nomination. They are just stellar for their counties year on year. And I'm excited to see the Soaring Star Awards as well. So they honour the Premier Junior and the intermediate inter-county players as well. So it's nice to see, because they don't have that. Well, they do, I suppose, but they don't get the recognition in the hurling and football equivalent, but in Camogie they're on the same level playing field. I suppose they get the same amount of media attention and time on the night as well, so I'm looking forward to that night.
And football predictions. Who do you think is going to walk away with that?
Oh, I'm not going to say Dublin, am I? You'd probably be killed if I do.
Yeah.
I know. I think they're a phenomenal setup. You know, even it's a different sport, but as Camogie players within Dublin, we'd look up to them a lot in the standards that they set and what they expect from themselves. They've been setting the bar consistently for the last number of years, between being in All-Ireland finals and now thankfully winning All-Ireland's last couple of years. So I'd love to see them go another step and add another title this year. I'll back them.
Yeah.
Tinfoil, what about yourself?
I'm back in Dublin as well, but it's an interesting pairing, Dublin and Galway. Obviously, Cork and Mayo the last couple of years, but I don't know, Mick Bohan just has them so well drilled, has barely put a foot wrong in the past 3 seasons, so I think they're probably going to claim a third.
Yeah, well, like, I work with Mackers, so I'm going to say that as well, just to be on the safe side. I know, yeah, like, and I know that, like, I know the Galway girls are putting in a huge amount of effort as well, so I think it's going to be a cracking game of football. Yeah, we'll see. 3 votes for Dublin, but like...
And another record-breaking attendance, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Let's hope so. Well, let's hope also attendance is up for our next play-by-play live event, which is this Friday too. So, see that segue there? That was actually pretty good. I'm pretty happy with myself. Oh, nailed it. Probably shouldn't have referenced that it was a great segue, but I don't care. So this coming Friday, we're hosting a live play-by-play in 4 Dame Lane. So we're going to give you a link to the event. It's going to be in this description box. It's free. We're going to have some rugby players there. Jordan Conroy, sevens player. Lindsay Peat. I'll also be there. GAA, we have David Goff. You know David.
Brilliant.
They go way back. Louise Galvin, Clean O'Connor and more will be there. It's going to be a great weekend. We're going to be talking a lot of Gaelic football, bit of rugby. I'd love to see you guys there. There's going to be some free pizza. That's our motivation. Melted cheese. Get there. There's also going to be some beer as well. Listen, that's all we have time for. Lads, Aisling, Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Episode 20. I do not know how we've made it to episode 20. I don't know how I've not been fired yet, but, you know, today might be the day. Thanks very much at home for everyone listening. I'm Jenny Murphy and see you on Friday.